Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Welcome to my Substack today, entitled I Gave My Birthday Away and You Can Too, subtitled Turning Personal Milestones into Community Good. Well, as you know, I'm Tom Sims, and this is my podcast, or one of them, where I reflect on leadership, generosity, faith, community life in ways that are practical, thoughtful, and repeatable. As we get older, many of us need fewer things. What we still need and what our communities still need are ample, simple, trustworthy ways to practice generosity. And today I want to talk about a practice I've been returning to for years, and that is giving my birthday away. I am recording this on my birthday, my 71st birthday, January 3rd, 2026. This is not a gimmick, it's not a performance, it's a repeatable act of leadership and gratitude, one that anyone can adapt. The episode that I'm offering you today brings some reflections that I have worked through across multiple platforms and I have experimented with through the years. For several years now, instead of asking for gifts, I've donated my birthday to a cause I care about. I set a modest goal. I invite people to participate if they want, and then I let it go. What surprised me over time is not how much money it raised, but what it taught me. It taught me that generosity forms best when it's ordinary. It taught me that people respond better to invitation than they do to pressure. And it taught me that leadership multiplies when practices are easy to replicate. So I recently wrote about this in a leadership focused piece called How I Gave My Birthday Away, You Can Too, which explores how this works at the level of nonprofits, boards, and organizational leadership. And I'm going to offer a link to you to that article in the show notes. But first, a word for writers and creators. I also want to say that if you are writing on platforms like Substack or Medium or WordPress, many of you are like me. We worry, or at least we consider, and we write about leadership, values, community. We don't often talk about how our platforms themselves can be used responsibly for community good. You don't need a massive audience. You don't need to turn your writing into an ask. Sometimes it's as simple as transparency, explaining what matters to you, why it matters, and offering a link without pressure. I recently combined these reflections into an article, a Medium article, free to read, specifically aimed at writers who want to integrate generosity into their work without eroding trust. And it's entitled, I Gave My Birthday Away, and You Can Too. And again, the link's in the show notes. What about the pastoral dimension? Well, that's a dimension that matters deeply to me, especially for ones in congregation and pastoral leadership, because I spent 50 years leading congregations. In church life, generosity is often taught carefully and cautiously, and for good reason. Money carries history, tension, and sometimes pain. What I've found is that generosity is not formed primarily through appeal, but through practice, especially when leaders model it quietly and consistently. Giving one's birthday away becomes a pastoral practice when it lowers pressure, strengthens trust, and affirms small, faithful giving. I wrote about this as well, specifically from a pastoral perspective in a piece titled Giving Your Birthday Away, a Pastoral Practice of Formation and Witness. And I've got the link in the show notes. If you serve in congregational life, that article may resonate differently, and it's the reason why I offered that in the show notes. Okay, up until this point, everything I've shared is freely available in written form. In the remainder of this episode, which is available to paid subscribers, I want to go a little bit deeper. Why practices like this work psychologically? When not to talk about them? How to turn simple habits into long-term cultural rhythms? And if you're finding this helpful and you want to support the work, I invite you to continue listening as a paid subscriber. Okay, now we're into the paid section. Congratulations for coming along and being a part of this. One of the most important lessons I've learned is when to stop talking. If a practice is clear and replicable, explanation can sometimes weaken it. Silence can be an endorsement. That's why I'm cautious about overproducing content around generosity. The goal is not attention, it's limitation. Birthday giving works because it's time bound, it's personal, it's voluntary, and it respects the dignity of small, consistent givers. Leadership at its best normalizes what matters without demanding applause. So let's talk about invitation, not CTA. If you continue the conversation personally, thoughtfully, I do offer complimentary coaching sessions, not as a pitch, but as a space to think together about leadership, generosity, or community impact in your own context. You'll find the link to that in the show notes as well. You can also stay in touch through my writing and my links at my link in bio page. Giving your birthday away won't solve every problem, but it can align gratitude with generosity and personal milestones with community good. And once you've tried it for yourself, the most important step comes next. Teach someone else how to do it. Thanks for listening. Let's stay in touch. And as always, all the best to you as you make a difference in your world.